David, how's it going?
What is happening, Randy?
There we go. We're color coded with our black tops.
See ya.
Great to be seen. Thanks for joining us, everybody. This is episode 193 of Tech Sales Insights. Really excited to have Dave Greenberger on. He's VP and head of North America at Check. We have an awesome title topic, which is Hard Work Pays Off: Lessons on Building Go-to-Market at a New Product Launch. We're sponsored by Titan X, who's the outbound sales effectiveness sponsor of Sales Community. For those that do outbound, typically the pickup rates are like 2 to 5%. Once it goes through this Joey's Swizzle at Titan, usually the pickup rate is more like 20 to 30%. We've done a lot of great things with a lot of big companies and small companies. So it seems like more and more people are going old school on the outbound cold calling. So definitely check out Titan X. And for those that are members of Sales Community, thank you so much. For those that are not, Tucker threw up a link. You may need to attach the on winter, the N and the T there, Tucker. But anyway, you can go to salescommunity.com/winterfree and get a free membership. And as always, we have Tucker behind the scenes helping us. So thank you, Tucker. So by way of introduction, Dave lives in New York City. Steelers sports fan. Grew up in Pittsburgh, so sorry about that.
Tough week here. Yeah.
Crazy one last night. Did you see with the Commanders, the guy hitting the goalpost?
Man, amazing. They're great.
Crazy
right now.
And Dave's also a big skier, so love to hear that, of course. And he's got 3 young kids. He's on the other side, age 8, 6, and 3. So I'm sure that's fun and a challenge, and enjoy it while you can. But before you know it, you're going to be like me, and they're all going to be out of the house. So you'll be yearning for those days.
Insane comes to mind, but fun sounds good too.
There you go. And we first met, we believe, at a go-to-market fund event in Arizona, probably 3-4 years ago. We're doing hiking and a bunch of great events that the guys had put together for us. And I was definitely impressed with Dave in terms of kind of just asking questions, really wanting to learn. He's obviously really accomplished, and you'll hear more about that today. And to help me with the introduction for others that know him well, Michael Ingram says Dave is one of the OGs of tech sales leaders in New York City. I met him through his group Building the Sales Machine, when they were and probably still are running some of the best events in New York City for revenue leaders 10 years ago. Great guy with positive energy that you love to have in your corner. Rich Van Sprang, who's Hitachi, says I interacted with David as the leader of the local software business. He was working hard to integrate a software team into our enterprise customers through identifying complementary business outcomes to our hardware-based business, which knowing Hitachi is definitely a tough thing. I appreciate that. Mark Cosaglow says Dave is awesome. He's a sales leader who demands excellent execution on the fundamentals, like getting on the phone, God forbid, while looking for cutting-edge tech to make that execution better and easier for his teams. And then from the go-to-market fund trio of Max, Scott, and Paul, they say Dave is great. Dave is one of the most thoughtful and generous revenue leaders in the go-to-market community. You hear the same thing from anyone who has been lucky to work with Dave over the course of his career. He's the man. So pretty good.
Glad I paid those guys off.
Pretty good summary there. So jumping into the questions here, tell us more about Check.
Yeah, Check's actually fairly interesting for a lot of the go-to-market leaders. We're a cybersecurity company, and we do all kinds of work, but a lot of it's around the customer journey. So things like, Citibank, a client, before we met them, 15-20% of their website traffic was fake. And so we help with things like sending fake leads to their sales team and to their brokers, or getting those bots out of their analytics, helping make sure they're not actually marketing to fake users, that type of world. It's been a kind of a new concept, a new idea that we've been cranking on for the last 6 or 7 years, but really, really starting to take hold.
Awesome. And how do you go to market?
A little bit of everything. We've got a PLG self-service mode, but A lot of it is, high touch enterprise. That's where I spend the vast majority of my focus. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then any particular kind of size companies, industries, geographies that you focus on?
We end up
Obviously, you're
playing up.
North America centric, but
Yeah. So I run North America. We're global. We end up playing up and down the field, but like I say, an outsized portion of our time is to the enterprise. The Citibank, Salesforce, Disney, Deltas of the world. Those are all our customers, and there's plenty to chew off once we start getting in there. When you're talking about kind of a brand new product idea.
awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, some exciting. And then what level? Are you kind of more like CISO, CIO, CTO, business unit? What do you
Yeah, so we actually have a whole suite. We sell a lot of our contracts end up coming out of the office of the CMO. Believe it or not, we're talking about like getting your analytics straight and your marketing and all that. But then we'll hit over to the COO when we're talking about analytics, and then we have a lot of packages for a CISO as well, like account takeovers and fake account creation issues and all that jazz.
Awesome. And kind of selling to CMOs, it's my impression seems they're sometimes maybe more subjective than objective, right? So if you're selling kind of IT buyers, CROs, they're kind of more, okay, show me their ROI. Marketing, CMOs seem to have kind of like just kind of more opinions before they even start talking to you, which sometimes can be a challenge. Do you find that?
Yeah, it's a little different. I went straight from selling to the CIO at Hitachi to doing a little bit of both here. But I think CMOs have that rap, but over the last 20 years or so, they've become much more data driven. So I think you actually see a CIO and a CMO starting to speak a lot of the same language these days. ROI is always important, but really understanding, getting into the weeds. How does this affect my business, and really needing to prove that ground instead of just selling a nice fluffy story. Pretty important for the Fortune 500 CMOs right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the title topic is hard work pays off, lessons on building go-to-market at a new product launch. So kind of set the table for us on that great topic.
Yeah, I mean, whether I wanted to or not, or like it or not, the vast majority of my career has been coming in fairly early at a product launch or a reorg or something like that. Check is my fifth startup. At Check alone, we've launched 8 products. And I usually come in at about a zero-ish revenue from a new product stage. Even when I was at Hitachi for a while, there was quite a reorganization of selling a pretty hardware-based company and selling their software portfolio, which is what me and my mentors were brought in to do. So got some experience there, for better or worse.
Awesome. That's great. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that come into play, but culture is always something that's important.
Yeah, really important. And I'm probably a little bit on the other end of a lot of the folks that you've had at your podcast, because I'm a bit earlier on the stage. But for us, when you're launching a new product, the absolute most important thing you can drive is a culture of really hard charging, but very constant test and learn and adapt and super swift product feedback. That's a really hard thing to do, and it comes from kind of the DNA. I think that the only way to actually go about a product launch is very hard outbound prospecting, just straight cold calling, getting into a lot of new folks that you've never talked to before. Throw that message out there and see what comes back, and just kind of lock yourselves in a room as that go-to-market team until you come back with a lot of happy ears on the other side. Hearing the message that you've sent and striking a chord, and then the proof becomes in the pudding once you can actually get those people to pay you and say they're happy about it on the other end. But that is a hard process in between those two things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should have said earlier, so for anybody that is watching or listening, feel free to chime in with any comments or any questions as well. And we have Tucker, as always, behind the scenes here to help. And then how do you know, or how do you find that product market fit? And I don't know if you have any examples from your career of good or bad.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever truly know. I think that's a search that you hit on for forever, but you typically find that you're doing a good job. Like I say, when a lot of people who are paying you money say they're really happy about the money that they've spent there. And it comes to, there's a guy named Stelly Efty, who I took a lot of my very early kind of pricing and packaging and how do you go to market from. And he says that when you're sending something out, well, you need when 20% of the people tell you that your price is way too low, that's a big problem. You want 20% of the people to tell you you're crazy because the price is too high, and about 80% to say like, hey, I would pay again for something like this. When you kind of hit on that sweet spot, that's when you know that you've got the product market fit right, and it means that you've got to get outside of the comfort zone. You've got to go. In my opinion, I like throwing out a really high price with a really what you try for a strong message. And when you start to get bites at that level, well, that's when you start to got something. And if the product comes out the other side with some happy customers, okay, now you're ready to start to kind of pave a road around whatever path you've hacked through the jungle.
Gotcha. And then it's not just throwing out a high price. I'm sure you're going in and saying, okay, well, here's what the ROI is. Here's kind of what the value is. So, hey, if a CFO looks, I always like to say, okay, if a CFO looks at it, is it a no brainer that they say, wow, let's go do this because it's so good because of, ABC reasons. It's going to help us generate revenue. It's going to help us save money. It's going to help us, stay out of jail for compliance, things like that.
Yeah, totally. When you're going out with pricing and packaging at the very beginning, you got to have a really clear ROI calculator that you're testing on internally, and really have those range. And when you can go at the high range, people still spark their interest, and then you can actually take the conversation out from there. Okay, well, that's where you've at least got something, and then you got to iterate and bring it back down to where the masses can hit.
Gotcha. And do you have any examples of your career where you thought, wow, it's going to be a great product, or whatever rev of the product's going to be great, and then you found out that there really was not product market fit?
Yeah, probably 100, but no good story comes to mind right now.
Gotcha. Interesting. I've actually interesting enough with the sales community when we originally started this during COVID. I thought, okay, this is going to be great. People are going to want to pay for memberships, and then lo and behold, there's a lot of other sites and things like that. So then, their initial feedback was good, but then when it comes to actually paying for it, then we kind of ended pivoting to the model where then it's more sponsor based. And also, PLG comes into play, but in hindsight, I would have been or should have been a lot more aggressive with just kind of, hey, just get free memberships, and would have been able to get more people on, get more feedback, get more usage, as opposed to charging from the beginning. So with your kind of new product launch, what's and obviously depends between a PLG type market and a enterprise type market, but kind of what have you seen there?
Yeah, super interesting. I mean, there's so many ways to slice.
You could talk all day or all week about it, but
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of different ways to monetize a thing that you have, and chasing at that. Like at Check, for example, when I got there, they had an entirely different sales motion that they knocked down here and decided that they wanted to go for SaaS and try and get upfront money. That happened to me at a company called Splash as well, which I worked at. Same thing. They were at they had a whole business model worked up. This was an event marketing company, so they were doing events for like Red Bull and Yahoo and all the Spotify, the big companies at the time, and they were charging for tickets, which made a lot of sense. Like that's what an event company would do. You'd charge for tickets, and they were doing a great job, but they had a really hard time getting that kind of predictable revenue as they started to raise a Series A and a Series B. And so they also, when I got there, decided to knock that whole down, take the same core engine and the same technology, and now sell it actually to Spotify or to Red Bull to pay for the software and the platform and the insights and everything. And that ended up being, what had that company take off. And actually, a lot of companies came and followed the model as well. They sold to Cvent very recently. But yeah, same idea, same concept, same technology, and totally knocking down the business model and kind of like taking those Lego blocks and reorganizing was what they needed to take off.
Gotcha. And Chuck, do you leverage the channel at all?
Yeah, we do. It's really, of course, when you're selling to CISOs, I think selling without a channel is like, six hands behind your back. So we think that's really important, but also, in every step of the way, selling through, when we're selling fake leads, selling through the Salesforce integrators or the marketing tech integrators. Yeah, it's a really important part of our business.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Moving on here. So I do a weekly post on Might Be Old School, but which is just all the stupid stuff that I see that, 20 years ago, you would never, 30 years ago, you would never see. So I know you've got some pet peeves. Any kind of one or two in particular?
Yeah, for sure. I just think, again, in my world, you got to be really hard charging. You got to be really aggressive and creative. But just complacency in sales is what kills me. And that's an obvious thing to say. But especially in enterprise sales, there's always even if you think you've got the deal bagged, there's always another person at that company that you can talk to. There's always another extra article you could read, another extra point of view that you could come with, another question to ask that can get you 0.1% closer to helping that customer and solving their problem. And that's what I think is the thing that separates the good from the great, is just continuing to go that like little extra mile. And that's my pet peeve, when people, think they've got something and sit on their hands or move on to the next thing or go get drunk in town. The minute you actually close that deal is when you're closest to popping the next big one. And all it takes is one more question.
Yeah. So as a Pittsburgh fan and living in New York, you're probably not going to like what I'm about to say, but last night, the game that Tom Brady was doing, he had kind of a great line, which is basically what you just said, which is, okay, you have a lot of great, athletes and performers and all that, but what separates the great from the good are those that do every little detail, that are in there early, that are doing the extra effort. And it's bad to have a broad generalization, but it seems like, because of COVID and the younger generation, I mean, you're younger than me, but we'd all basically bust our ass a lot. And it seems a lot of that, kind of work ethic is kind of not there. And then if you add on top the whole, working from home that people think is good, I think is awful, because they're not learning the whole, mental state of mind and the camaraderie and go and the friendly competition and just kind of all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard. I think the edges have been worn off, and the need to feel like you're doing that and bringing the lunch pail every day is gone. But I do think that there's some really hungry, bright kids that are coming in right now, and you can really separate through the chaff when you're actually like hard charging and going out there and getting it right now. And I'm seeing a lot of those kids really making a name for themselves right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, I think when it was harder, it was kind of a tighter, kind of, whatever, it's when the Tour de France, whatever, they're in the whatever
Peloton,
yeah, yes, right. So they're all together, right? So it's kind of like, when we were, it's harder to separate, but now I think it's really easy to see. And especially, for those that are looking for jobs, right? Well, kind of, I'll talk to, okay, well, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What's your follow up and blah, blah, people are just sloppy. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And you want them to hire you for sales, and you didn't do all this different stuff. It's like, yeah.
And it's really simple and it's easy. And if you just make like an extra cold call, then that doesn't happen today. Like I have a cousin who's an SDR now, and he cold calls me all the time just to see what's going on and pick my brain. And no one does that. And it's like, hey, this kid is 300% to goal every single month, and there's a good reason why.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So anyway, moving on here. So I know you've very passionate about kind of sales ops and rev ops and how that kind of function helps you.
Yeah. I can't go anywhere without sales ops. It's like AE to a sales engineer. To me, that line has grayed big time ever since Billy Bean entered the world. You can't just go on your gut feel anymore. you need a whole machine and sales ops and a set of analysts that are throwing data in your face, that are testing every single little intuition that you have, and making sure that it's coming out the other side with some real process and procedure. So yeah, that's sales ops is absolutely vital. We've built a pretty good machine at Check right now, and there's so much sales technology also. You really need a whisperer there that can make that hum and put everything together for the reps, or they just simply won't use it.
Yeah. And you're leveraging Gong for not just the call recording, revenue intelligence, also forecasting, and that's something that's pretty vital to your team.
Yeah, I've fallen in love with Gong. We use, obviously we're a Salesforce shop, and we have outreach and all that stuff. But me as a sales leader, and a lot of my reps are using Gong as kind of the interface, right? Because the UI is really great, and because it's sucking in every single email and phone call and all of that, it has such great data, like at your fingertips, ready to rock on what you need for any given deal. It's been fantastic. And yeah, we did a big evaluation for our forecasting software, and ended up choosing Gong over a Clary or a lot of the other forecasting tools, and it has been phenomenal. We've been there for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. I can't say enough good things about the innovation those guys are doing.
Gotcha. And then from a kind of coaching perspective, being able to do I don't know how advanced you are on the Gong side of things, but be able to get the coaching, the feedback, being able to get the recap note functionality, you being able to kind of get the summary. I mean, just saves you a lot of time from a kind of coaching, getting feedback, knowing where deals are at perspective as well.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. For me, even for like a second, third line leader, I'm in Gong every single week, listening to calls, and it can help me bubble up what are the right, instead of just doing a random pop quiz, what are the right type of things to roll into. But I think it's fantastic there, and the more coaching that you do through Gong, they pick up on what you want and can help operationally get that through to the team. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. And the recap, and that's, I'll say I might be old school, but, it just bugs the heck out of me. Okay, so nobody should go to sleep until they do recap note from, whatever they, sales calls that they had that day, because you wait to the next day, it just bubbles up and up, and then it gets delayed. And customers want to, buy from and partner with somebody that's going to be sharp and crisp on top of things. And, Gong just, serves up, kind of, basically the ball's in field goal range, right? And you got to tweak a couple things. There's no excuse not to get those done.
Totally. And you can tell the difference when you get a ChatGPT answer. Gong or ChatGPT or any of this AI can help you, can get you 70% of the way there, but big difference if you're just going to spit that out as opposed to really taking that and putting it into your words.
Yeah, works out awesome. And then you're using ZoomInfo as well for not just contacts but also ABM.
Yeah, we do. We actually we were pretty early with ZoomInfo and partnering on their intent and ABM, which has been great so far. We've got a whole initiative right now to kind of I don't know, go to market 3.0 for Check. We're really focused on what we did was we just had a model where, hey, you're Disney, you're pre-qualified for Check. You're going to have invalid traffic, and we're just going to go bring the fight to you and teach you what you need to know. And we're really focused on turning that on end and speaking to people who are in market. There's just enough signals out there, and there's enough people out there who have the problem that you need to solve for them, that we're really focused on building that next intent. We're working with companies like Clay or like a Pocus, which is very new and absolutely fantastic. Operator AI is Mark Costaglow's new thing, to really leverage all the data that's out there and AI to listen properly for what are the problems that your prospects or customers are having, and how can you actually focus on getting to them at the right place and right time, instead of just hitting someone because they're quote unquote pre-qualified due to their size and traffic.
Awesome. And then do you know how you're using the account-based marketing functionality of ZoomInfo?
Yeah, well, for us, we're a company that raised a ton of money and then decided to go profitable or near to it. So we're really limited on resources. Probably most of your customers have never heard of Check before, but we can become a household name to 40 or 50 people at Dick's Sporting Goods, who happen to be in our process. And so that's what happens when we start to get something that's working. We want to light up that entire buying group. And the way that we do that is we need to do some deep research to figure out who those 40 or 50 people in the buying group are going to be. And as soon as we can, then leverage, all the data and insights like ZoomInfo to go become a household name to those 40 or 50 people who have never heard of Check, or maybe even the problem that we're trying to solve before. So, we're still early-ish days there, but it's been really promising so far.
No, very cool. And I know we talked in our prep also, they've got this cool offering called Copilot, which is basically automates, leverages AI on steroids, kind of leveraging, all that stuff you just talked about. So we can do that as a follow-up as well.
Yeah, Henry's been doing great stuff, man. They've been innovating like crazy.
Awesome. And then kind of from a sales training perspective, kind of with your team, you've got kind of obviously different levels of skill sets. What do you do there?
Yeah. So you and I were talking a little bit before about this guy named Jamal Reimer. Jamal's been kind of a really close advocate for us, and we've leveraged a lot of his training. He is, a guy who did eight-figure sales at Oracle, and is really deft at kind of teaching those secrets down to some of the younger hustlers that have the grind but don't really know kind of the art of enterprise sales. That's what I'm doing on my team. We're really training up a lot of these folks into 7-figure deals. So he's been an incredible ally for us. And we also just started working with a group called pclub.io. It's Chris Orlob, who was actually an early guy at Gong. And I have been extremely impressed with his programs. He's got a lot of programs online and then does services work on top of that, just to teach a lot of the really fairly fundamental, easy stuff on what is the true business problem that your customer has and how do you connect that to the message that you're trying to sell. But it's been really impactful for us to speak the same language, on top of Medic and all the force management stuff that we try to do today.
Gotcha. And you also leverage the force methodology?
Yeah, exactly. I haven't afforded to bring force in yet, but I take what I've learned from my force management trainings, me and my CRO, Mark Jacobs, and we've been installing that quite a bit.
Awesome. Very cool. And then from a kind of other kind of talent assessment perspective, so you have the kind of the training that you do, how do you kind of go through and say, okay, here's what an A player is, what are the attributes, kind of where's the puck going, how do you assess and kind of leverage basically moving people up or out, objectively looking at those skill sets?
Yeah, we've got a pretty good enablement and training program. We've actually built scorecards, via Gong that can help on a call-to-call basis, but can also help on a month or quarter to basis. Those are newish. We're frankly still a small enough team that we're pretty in the weeds. A lot of folks are in office. We bring the whole team in once a quarter. So we're really, really close and tight to our team still today. So we don't have, the scaling issue that you have at Hitachi to keep eyes and have a really strong methodology. We can kind of touch everyone, which is good and bad, but really helpful for us from an advancement and enablement standpoint.
Awesome. There's the company we work with in the leadership assessment space called Octus IQ. So since we're talking about football, so they do a lot for sales teams, but on this sports side, they do that kind of just more for fun. And interestingly enough, they had studied football players and quarterbacks in college going to NFL. So they had done lots of assessments, but one was Brock Purdy. So he went low in the draft, obviously, but they had identified him as a star across kind of all the different attributes. which then ended up, playing out obviously.
Huh.
And then they've got the opposite where some other people are these, kind of stars, high draft picks, and they're saying we have no idea why, because you got to kind of peel back the onion on the skill set and the ability and realize that they're actually bad in some core areas, which is then long term going to make them, a poor performer. So it's interesting the analogies between, assessment skills for, sports, tying into sales as well.
Randy, what's that called?
Octus IQ.
Octus. Oh,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. It's like a
Yeah.
new Wonderlic test almost.
Yeah, really. They're doing a whole bunch, so we can also do follow up there.
Wow.
So now, what about along the way? You've been fortunate, a lot of great kind of mentoring coaches. Any one or two you want to give shout outs to, and anything specific that you had received for feedback or ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky to have a pretty good group of mentors. I was just out to dinner with a bunch of them last week.
Yeah, I saw your post. That was a great group.
Oh yeah. So like Kiva Kolstein, who's running AlphaSense right now, he's been a guy I've tried to ask every question I could ever come up with under the sun. He's been an excellent, guide and mentor for me. Sam Jacobs, who now runs Pavilion, was an early guy for me, and Dave Govin, who was a old wise man in that CRO group, is the one who brought me into Hitachi. Really taught me like power-based selling and how to crack 7-8 figure deals, which was pretty new to a startup hustler. Those guys are great. Too many to mention.
Awesome. And then what about, you've had the benefit of kind of big companies, small companies working at kind of from a CEO perspective. Any one or two there?
Yeah. I've worked for some of the best CEOs out there. My first company, I joined when they were about 15 people, and I was 20 years old, and that company ended up IPOing. It was a company called Yext. Howard Lerman and Brian Distelberger were the co-founders there, and it was the absolute most amazing experience to just get a front row MBA on how to build a business. Those guys are each going and running their own business now. Howard runs a company called Roam, which is about getting virtual offices set up and kind of making a virtual office feel like you're working right next to someone. And it is magical what they are doing. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense when you hear it, and no one knows how to describe it. But every time I talk to one of their customers, it's like, I don't know how I'd work without Roam. It's one of those really interesting company to look for.
Awesome. I'm sure it was an interesting product market fit journey you went through. All right. It's probably the old, you want me to do what? No way. Like, just try it. Like, wow.
Yeah. And it works.
That's great. What about advice to your younger self?
Oh man, I was a guy who thought he was gonna go run his own business and own like 30 RBs or join Wall Street or something like that. And I happened to stumble into sales, and I didn't want to do sales because I thought, I don't want to sit and cold call in a cubicle. And I fell in love. It replaced sports for me. It was such a hard charging thing, so competitive. And really, with the commissions being uncapped, you can build your own business. If I had advice to my older self, I would say that whether you're owning a bakery or want to be the president of the United States, you've got to have some sales skills, and diving into that and learning everything you can early on will help you no matter what you do in your life. And I did that by accident, but wish I could give more advice there.
No, totally good. And at the end, I always like to ask, I know we don't know each other that well, but if there's any PG Randy story to share.
So I don't know if you remember, but Randy and I met, we were out in Arizona and hiking Camelback, which is a pretty challenging hike. I met Randy on the way down, which is arguably more challenging than the way up.
Yeah,
actually.
And given the group, I was the old guy.
Right. And I didn't know, I didn't know you from Adam, but we started talking about a lot of things. You knew all the guys from Hitachi that I worked with and everything. And I asked you probably every question I could possibly think of about enterprise sales, but what we really talked a lot about was raising kids. And you gave me some great frameworks for just goal setting and what's, my kids were very little at the time, maybe 5 and 3 and just born. And I started to use them, and I took some of them from your book and stuff. And then I later find out that, you've got a professional baseball player in the family, and you got so much success coming off of that. So the the frameworks, the stories, everything made a ton of sense, and it's very obvious that held true and was successful for you. So I appreciate you sharing it.
Awesome. Yeah. And since it is January, I'm actually working on updating my goals, but from your kids' perspective, it's just, kind of that mindset for others. So if you think about, okay, sports wise, what do you want to do? So it might be, okay, if they're, I don't know, 6 years old, might be, okay, I want to be on the play T-ball. Right. And then it, kind of, can progress up from there where, okay, I want to make this team, I want to make the travel team, I want to make varsity, I want to be all-star, I want to, go to college for that, kind of sports side. Okay, family could be, okay, relationship with your siblings. Okay, I want to, fight less. If you're kind of religious, okay, we want to either kind of pray or go to a service, once a week, or not complain and scream about going. And kind of the okay, money side, okay, I want to try get an allowance and make whatever, $10 a week, and obviously that can skews up a little bit when you get older like us. But kind of just having that framework, just saying to your kids, okay, hey, just pick one thing kind of per topic area that you want to try and work on this year, and that kind of mindset is obviously something that can stay with you for the rest of your life.
So that was the thing. We just picked one thing, which I hadn't done before, wrote it down, put it on the wall, put a little vision board with Michael Jordan doing it or around it, and it makes all the difference in the world. Just a very simple thing that in the back of your head says, yeah, of course, but the act of doing was really important. I appreciate that. My kids will one day too. We'll tell you.
There you go. Awesome. Love it. Can't wait. So time flies when you're having fun. So Tucker, thanks for your help behind the scenes. Dave, you've been an awesome guest, and wish you a great time there at Czech. You got, sounds like lots of cool things you guys got going. Look forward to watching your success.
Amazing. Get some good turns in out there.